It's one of the most famous stories ever told. A tiny band of warriors standing against a massive, unstoppable empire. A battle so epic, it almost sounds like a myth. But what really happened with those 300 Spartans?
I mean, it sounds completely impossible, right? A few hundred guys against tens of thousands. The real question isn't just if they could do it, it's how on earth they pulled it off. And maybe even more importantly, why they did.
So let's set the scene. The year is 480 BCE. The Persian Empire, which is the biggest the world has ever seen at this point, is bearing down on Greece. The Persian king, Xerxes, wants to conquer the place, and honestly, with his unimaginably huge army, it really looks like nothing can stop him.
Okay, let's talk numbers. Now, historians debate the exact figures, but we're talking about a Persian army of well over 100,000 soldiers. It was a force so massive, Xerxes was incredibly confident. In fact, he actually waited 4 days before even attacking, because he just assumed the Greeks would take one look at his army and run for the hills.
And this is what the Greeks brought to the fight. A combined force of only about 7,000 soldiers, and leading them, that famous elite unit of 300 Spartans. On paper, this isn't a battle, it's a complete wipeout. But the Greeks had an ace up their sleeve, and it all started with where they chose to fight.
This right here is the key to the whole thing. The Greeks picked this spot, Thermopylae, because it was a natural choke point. Think about it like this. It's like trying to force a massive crowd through a single, narrow doorway. All those Persian numbers suddenly became worthless, because they could only attack with a few soldiers at a time. The landscape itself became the Greeks' greatest weapon.
But this fight wasn't just about the location. This was a total clash of fighting styles. It was a battle of technology, training, and tactics.
At the heart of the Greek army was the hoplite, and the most famous hoplites of all were the Spartans. These guys were basically professional soldiers, trained for war and nothing else from the time they were just kids. This made them incredibly disciplined, tough as nails, and absolute masters of close combat.
And just look at the gear they brought. Each hoplite was carrying over 60 pounds of equipment. Their heavy bronze armor and their huge shields, called an aspis, gave them a massive advantage over the Persian infantry, who often just had wicker shields. I mean, imagine going into a fight with a picnic basket for protection. This gear was all about one thing: surviving brutal face-to-face fighting.
But all that gear is only half the story. The real genius was how they used it. The hoplites fought in a formation called the phalanx. They would lock their shields together, point their long spears forward, and they would become a single, solid unit, basically a human fortress. As long as they held that formation, this wall of bronze and spear points was almost impossible to break from the front.
And for 2 straight days, this perfect mix of terrain, technology, and tactics worked, well, perfectly. That Greek wall held strong. And you can just imagine King Xerxes on his throne, watching this and just not believing his eyes.
Xerxes just threw wave after wave of his army at the Greek line. He even sent in his best troops, his special forces, the 10,000 immortals, and even they got chewed up and spit out. The Greeks just held the line, causing huge casualties while taking very few themselves. They even used clever tricks, like pretending to run away to lure the Persians in, and then turning around and crushing them. For 48 hours, the impossible was actually happening.
So the Greek plan is working flawlessly. The phalanx is holding, Persian morale is tanking. So what went wrong?
You have to think, Xerxes must have been screaming at his generals. If he couldn't beat them with brute force, how was he going to win? Well, the answer wasn't going to come from the battlefield.
It all came down to one thing: betrayal.
A local Greek man, a guy named Ephialtes, hoping for a big reward, showed the Persians a secret path. A trail that went right through the mountains and came out directly behind the Greek army. He guided them at night, and by dawn, the Greeks were completely surrounded. Their perfect defense had just become a deadly trap.
So when the Spartan king Leonidas found out he was about to be hit from the front and the back, he knew the battle was lost. But the war wasn't. He had to make an impossible choice.
Now this is so important to understand. This wasn't a desperate last stand. It was a calculated, strategic sacrifice. Leonidas sent most of the Greek army away to safety so they could regroup and fight another day. He and his 300 Spartans, along with a few hundred other allies who chose to stay, would hold the pass. They were going to buy time, and they all knew they were not walking out of there alive.
And that final fight was just brutal. On the third day, surrounded on all sides, they fought with literally everything they had. When their long spears shattered from the force of combat, they pulled out their short swords. When their swords broke, ancient historians tell us they fought on with their bare hands and their teeth. Unbelievable.
They refused to surrender. In the end, the Persians, probably not even wanting to get close to them anymore, just stood back and rained down arrows until not a single defender was left standing.
So that's it, right? Persians won the battle. They cleared the pass. End of story. Well, not quite. In a really strange twist of history, this devastating loss turned out to be one of the most important victories for all of Greece.
Think about what that 3-day delay actually bought them. It was everything. It gave the Greek navy precious time to get ready, and it allowed the entire city of Athens to be evacuated before the Persians arrived to burn it. It also shattered Persian morale. I mean, they lost thousands of their very best soldiers to this tiny force. But maybe the most important thing? The story of the 300 lit a fire across all of Greece. It became a rallying cry that united them to fight back, which led to a massive victory at sea just a short time later.
This was the message that was later inscribed on a monument at the battlefield. It really captures the whole Spartan way of thinking. It was all about duty. They didn't die for glory. They died because it was their duty to Greece, and their sacrifice became a legend that has echoed through time.
And that really leaves us with this final thought. The Battle of Thermopylae is the ultimate heroic defeat. It's a story that proves that sometimes the way you lose can change the world way more than a simple victory ever could.